Yeah, the country is still exporting most of its cashew in raw form, earning about $700 million a year, while much of the real value is being created and captured in Asia and other processing hubs. Now, the industry is making a bold claim that with the right policies, investments, and processing capacity, Nigeria could grow this into a $3 billion raw export industry and potentially a $10 billion value-added industry within the next 5 years. Well, joining us to check the possibilities here, we have Dr. Joe Joseph Janaku, who is the CEO, Seacos Nigeria Limited, and President, National Cashew Association of Nigeria. Great to have you on the show, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
Fantastic. So quite the number there, the potential we're seeing for Nigeria's cashew exports as if we add, value. But currently, I believe Nigeria earns about $700 million from raw cashew exports. Talk to me about this number. Why don't we have bigger numbers, at this point, in the current system? And who is capturing the value in that industry today?
Thank you. Once again, good morning, Nigerians. Nigeria cashew industry, like you rightly said, has a huge potential that can generate a lot of foreign earnings for Nigeria as a country. But there have been some kind of, not giving attention to this very sector. The cashew we are producing in Nigeria for now, we are exporting it because we don't have what it takes to process what we are currently producing in the country. There are a lot of things mitigating against that processing. For instance, the cost of funding is very high, and our processors are not able to compete with the outside world to see that they can make up with what other people are paying for the raw commodity. And so we feel that the government of Nigeria should critically look at this area. And the production currently, we don't have this normal structure on ground, the right statistics to determine the quantity of cashew or the amount of cashew be produced in Nigeria. But from the statistics we get, it's only what is exported out of the country. Yeah, you measure $700 million, but we know that it is well far above that, because many of our exporters who are majorly foreigners in the country export these goods without completing the Nigeria export proceed form, because they want to invade the repatriation of that amount of it to come back to Nigeria. But for the NXP that are completed and they will have the funds repatriated, we are recording about 700 million. But Nigeria have more potential here. We can do more than 4 million tons of cashew annually in this country. And we, as an association, we run a statistic, we do some research with some geologists in the country. We discovered that Nigeria can produce cashew in about 89 to 92 senatorial districts in a commercial volume. And but currently it's only restricted to some about just major states that are doing cashew in Nigeria is just about 9 states, but we have the trading in about 22 states in Nigeria. So we can expand, and if we expand and we are able to do these 4 million tons of cashew, for instance, today price is going for $1,550. And if we are doing 4 million tons of cashew annually, we are looking at above $6 billion. And so this is why we are asking the government of Nigeria. I met with His Excellency Vice President, and he agreed with us that there is a huge potential in the cashew industry, and the government will bring its attention to it. So we are still looking up to that to see what the federal government is going to do on that aspect for us. Now, if we are talking of raw cashew not alone, by the time we go into processing of these products that we have in Nigeria, in cashew, we have so many other byproducts. The popular one today is called CNSL, cashew nut shell liquid, which can be used for so many other things in the country. And after extracting that CNSL, we have the cake. The cake today is a lot of money outside the country. I just returned from my trip in Vietnam, and I met with one of the biggest processors in that country. And he told me plainly that only the money they are making from the cake alone is enough to cover the transportation between Nigeria and Vietnam. And those are the things we are missing as a country. So if we're able to put all those things together and we have the right policy for the sector, not an imposed policy, the right policy for the sector, we believe that we can generate a lot of resources for the country.
All right, and it's almost, starting to seem like what we've seen play out in the oil industry here. Definitely, we finally have, a domestic refiner here, and it was a huge investment, to get that started, and now we're able to refine, our oil. Talk to me about what kind of investment is needed to replicate what we've seen play out in the oil industry, in this, cashew industry, to get, processing and all of that. What kind of investment? Is it as expensive as setting up a refinery?
I don't know if you're hearing me. Yes, a lot the federal government, we need a lot from the federal government of Nigeria. They have to give us, like I said, we have SAPL, Special Agro Processing Loan. This is very, very important to encourage investment into the sector. If this is given and we have Hello?
Yeah, I don't know if you... Did you hear my question?
Yeah. I heard your question.
Okay,
what I'm saying is that
go on,
Nigeria can do a lot to replicate what has happened in the oil sector by encouraging investment in the sector. That is, encouraging indigenous investors through what we call Special Agro Processing Loan. Let this loan not be more than 3% to maximum of 5%. That will help, that will encourage investment into the sector and will not be at the detriment of the producers, so that it will be a win-win product. I don't know if you're hearing me, Mr. Lagi.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear. Yeah.
So these are the areas we think that the federal government needs to come in, and also to help in energy generation. The cost of energy today is not what the processors in Nigeria can compete with the outside community with what they are getting in their country. And so we need also to have this, our factories in Nigeria being given this concession, let them have there's a kind of subsidy, energy subsidy in the sector that will enable them process maximally. Those things are highly needed and very essential for the sector. That is the only way we can have the sector process and maximize profit. Then the farmers will not be at disadvantage.
All right, definitely we need to, see that kind of huge support, coming for our domestic producers here. But looking at the cashew value chain, what parts of it would you say offer the highest margins right now? Definitely you have the primary processing, secondary processing, byproducts. Which one gives the highest margin?
The highest margin now is where our potential lies from now, which is in production. If we encourage production and we are able to produce to maximum, then we can generate a lot of funds from what we are producing. Now, before we move into this, what we call primary processing, that is in the shelling, where we take only the kernel out of it and see what we can do with the shell, another byproduct. And one thing again that we are missing here in this country is the apple itself. We have a lot of potential. This is a lot of a product that is supposed to come out from the apple itself, but today it's being wasted because people are only after the nut. We can produce jam, we can produce juice, we can produce so many other things from the apple itself. So that's another way that will generate a lot of resources for us before we go into the industrial aspect of it, which is that of cashew nut shell liquid and that of the cake that I'm talking about.
All right, and looking at the regular cashew nuts that that we see sold in supermarkets and sold on the streets and other parts, we've seen the price of a bottle That has stayed expensive, for the longest time.
I'm not hearing. The line is cracking.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Is it better? Is it better now? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, so I'm trying to understand. Yeah, the regular bottles of cashew nut they sell in supermarkets and sold in the streets sometimes. The price of a bottle has stayed elevated for the longest time. What is responsible for that?
What is responsible for that is because, let me say, that the model of processing is still very cumbersome for the people who are processing it, because they have not gotten these modular factories that we have been asking for the government to see what they can do about it. If they have a way of processing in a cheaper way, then they can sell it a bit less than what they are having now. But because the cost of processing is a bit difficult for them, cumbersome for them, so they are finding it very difficult to be able to sell it at a competitive price. And more also that most of the goods is going, cashew majorly is an export product. In Nigeria, we have we have granite, and granite is competing with cashew. So many people prefer to go for granite than going for cashew. That's why we look at it that way. So we believe that if the processing is being subsidized for them, we'll be able to get it cheaper. And if we produce more of it, the law of supply and demand will come to play. When money is chasing, when few money is chasing a lot of goods, the price on this won't come down.
All right. So at this point, how optimistic are you about this government, doing, what you've talked about earlier? You've talked about, government support, for the industry and, most of the value chain in there. Do you think you're going to get the attention of this government in scaling up this industry?
We are believing and we are hoping that meeting with His Excellency, the Vice President of Nigeria, that the government will beam his attention to the sector, but not without being pushed. They are very busy and very occupied. But we are having a conference, and this conference, we are believing that every one of them will be with us here, and when they are with us here in Abuja, then we can relate fine at the conference, which is coming up on the 22nd to on the 24th of this month at the Presidential Banquet Hall. So we are working on that strongly to see that we have the presence of the President himself and the dignitaries that needs to be around, the people that are decision makers who will be with us in that conference. Then we can relate fine and see how they can participate and push the sector forward.
Right, and definitely when we look at most of these commodities, definitely we know there are countries out there that might be doing it better or running the industry better than we are. In your opinion, who are our biggest competitors in Africa? Who are our biggest buyers of Nigerian cashew at this point?
At this point, I didn't hear the first part of the question, but I heard the last one. The biggest buyers of Nigeria cashew for now, the processed one this is going to American market and that of Gulf Coast country that is moving from Vietnam to and India to all those countries. We have some few processors in Nigeria that are able to access those international market too. But good thing about Nigerian product is that Nigerian cashew, because it is known to be organic, has its own premium price in every international market. When you go, for instance, when I was in UK, I went to a store, you see that this is Nigerian cashew have a different price from other commodity, other cashew coming from other country, because Nigeria cashew is known to be organic, and this is what the association is promoting, to see that we maintain this standard and have this premium price at all time.
All right, and at this point, let's just imagine, I'm a local investor. I have some cash on the side at this point, and I'm looking at this industry and saying, you know what, I feel I want to, test the waters here. What's the first thing I should be doing at this time?
First of all, go into production, let's put our strength on where we have our capacity. Let's build capacity in our area. If I don't know what kind of capacity the investor may be thinking, but the first place to start from is to build production, because this can also help to depopulate our urban areas who are already congested and create jobs for people in the rural area, because many of our citizens that are in the rural area has no business in the rural area if they have businesses that they are doing back and at home. And if we increase production in the rural area, we have create jobs for our people who will not be migrating to urban area. So the person, anybody having interest now should first of all go into production. And once you have that get right, then we can come into process, because processing cashew actually requires a lot of cost. It's a very huge investment, and so not everybody can just dive into it. And until we have this policies in place, like we said, that the federal government of Nigeria is able to come up with special agro-processing loan, especially for that of cashew. I usually said, give us a product paper in cashew industry and see the lot of jobs will create for our people in Nigeria and the amount of revenue will generate internationally.
All right, I guess so many industries and commodities that needs the government's attention at this point. But thank you for helping us paint the picture here, Dr. Joseph Ajono, who is the CEO Seacoast Nigeria Limited and President, National Cashew Association of Nigeria. Thank you for coming on the show today, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ladi. I'm grateful.